Todos sabemos que Leavitt es terrible en su trabajo. Y eso es muy extraño porque su único trabajo consiste en mentir en nombre de Donald Trump. Pero simplemente parece que ni eso puede hacer bien. Así que mientras el cierre de gobierno está en marcha y Donald Trump, desesperado por echarle la culpa a cualquiera que no sea él, Leavitt necesitó un poco de ayuda. Así que llamó al vicepresidente Vance. Yo sé, de entre tantas personas, llamó a la más arrogante. Todo esto para mentir, atacar y luego colapsar ante los reporteros. Todo esto cuando fue confrontado por un comentarista de Fox. Ahora, antes de entrar en la pregunta que hizo realmente colapsar al vicepresidente Vance y que también hizo colapsar a Leavitt, quiero comenzar con una en la que Vance estuvo en desacuerdo con su queridísimo líder Donald Trump, esencialmente llamándolo mentiroso. Mira, por favor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you for being here. Yesterday, President Trump said, as a result of the shutdown, we'll be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and the Democrats, they are going to be Democrats. Has the administration asked agencies to target federal workers who they believe to be Democrats in these reductions of forces?
We're not targeting federal agencies based on politics. We're targeting the people's government so that as much as possible of the essential services can continue to function. That is the question the president has asked the entire government, is fundamentally, okay, we're in a shutdown. That causes some problems. The troops aren't getting paid. There's nothing that we can do about that while the government is shut down. But there are essential services that we want to make sure as much as possible they still continue to function. That is the principle that's driving us forward during this shutdown. It's going to continue to be the principle that drives us forward. But let's be honest. If this thing drags on for another few days or, God forbid, another few weeks, we are going to have to lay people off. We're going to have to save money in some places so the essential services don't get turned off in other places. That is the reality of the government shutdown that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have foisted upon the administration.
So what did he mean by they're going to be Democrats? He said they're going to be Democrats.
You've laid out
Vimos a Donald Trump decir que las personas que serán despedidas en las purgas masivas que está prometiendo, y es importante reconocer que Donald Trump dijo esto porque está prometiendo que durante el cierre de gobierno va a despedir a muchas personas. Lo utilizó como una herramienta de presión, diciendo que si los demócratas no aceptaban sus planes y no le daban el presupuesto que ellos estaban pidiendo, que si no le permitían recortar la atención médica a millones de estadounidenses para luego aumentar sus primas entre un 80 y un 75%, entonces él realizaría purgas masivas y despediría a muchas personas de la fuerza laboral. Lo cual es algo que Donald Trump ya ha hecho antes. Así que por favor, Chuck Schumer, no le escribas simplemente una carta con palabras fuertes a Donald Trump, para luego terminar arrodillándote ante él. Porque claro, entiendo que puedes estar preocupado por esta amenaza de Donald Trump, pero esa no es la solución. Pero algo interesante es que Donald Trump dijo que iba a despedir únicamente a personas demócratas. O sea, esta purga que él quiere hacer es despedir a personas demócratas que tengan trabajos federales. Lo cual realmente no tiene sentido y yo no sé cómo él podría determinar esto. Pero en este punto Vance está retrocediendo. Primero porque es políticamente impopular y también porque es muy tonto. Pero segundo, ¿qué significa que él hiciera esto? ¿Por qué Vance está en desacuerdo con su queridísimo líder? Muy probablemente después de eso reciba una reprimenda, ya sea del Donald Trump real o del Donald Trump falso que ahora comparte en Truth Social. Porque sí, se asume que Donald Trump no es el que está compartiendo estos extraños posts día tras día dentro de Twitter, que evidentemente son generados con IA, como uno del que Leavitt fue cuestionada al respecto. Mira, por favor.
two things to ask you about.
Sure.
First thing, I want to ask about this video that the president posted the other day. It was an AI deepfake of himself talking about something called med beds. What was he trying to communicate to the public there, and why did he delete it?
I think the president saw the video and posted it, and then took it down. And he has the right to do that. It's his social media. He's incredibly transparent, as you all know. You hear from him directly on social media. He likes to share memes. He likes to share videos. He likes to repost things that he sees other people post on social media as well. And I think it's quite refreshing that we have a president who is so open and honest directly himself. Many a times on Truth, you are hearing directly from the President of the United States.
The second thing.
En medio de un cierre de gobierno, el presidente de Estados Unidos está tan confundido que hasta cree que son verdad los videos generados con IA. Y esto es bastante gracioso. Para mí esa fue la parte más graciosa de ese clip que Donald Trump compartió de Laura Trump, en donde él habla sobre los med beds. Esta es una extraña conspiración de la derecha que habla sobre una cura para todo y que es una cura que tienen alienígena. Pero bueno, el punto importante es que Donald Trump no está centrado en nada que sea realmente importante por este cierre de gobierno, excepto en seguir presionando a Chuck Schumer, amenazándolo con atacar a Nueva York. Todo esto para que él se rinda. De Vance, o JD Vance como quieras, fue presionado por esto por Peter Doocy, y no le fue tan bien, la verdad. Mira, por favor.
The administration announced today that $18 billion bound for New York transportation projects is going to be frozen so it can't go to DEI programs there. But the timing of this, does announcing that today mean that you guys are going to squeeze Chuck Schumer's home state until he blinks?
Look, I haven't talked to Russ about this morning, but look, I'm sure that Russ is heartbroken about the fact that he's unable to give certain things to certain constituencies. We want to do everything that we can to help the American people, but when the Democrats shut down the government, we have to actually do a little triage to make sure the most critical and most essential services are provided. The government does a lot of things. Of course, Republicans think that the federal government probably does too much, but there are a lot of critical things the federal government does that absolutely all of us would agree need to do. Our troops need to get paid. Our air traffic controllers need to make sure that people are flying safely and on time. We need low-income people to be able to access the food services that are provided by the federal government. There are critical things that need to be saved. We're going to do everything that we can over the coming weeks, if the shutdown lasts that long, to ensure that people get the essential services that they need, despite the fact that Chuck Schumer has shut down the federal government. It's not going to be perfect because we are in a government shutdown. We are going to have to lay some people off if the shutdown continues. We don't like that. We don't necessarily want to do it, but we're going to do what we have to keep the American people's essential services continuing to run.
Thank you.
Donald Trump siempre intenta utilizar la intimidación como un medio para obtener todo lo que quiere. Pero los demócratas no se van a rendir en este momento. Ellos tienen que entender que en este punto los estadounidenses se están dando cuenta de que Donald Trump es el responsable de todo esto. Y si cedemos ante él, las cosas sencillamente van a continuar pasando. Por esa razón, Bernie Sanders dijo que él no va a retroceder. Básicamente está contraatacando. Mira, por favor.
We're looking at more income and wealth inequality that we've ever had. We're looking at a situation where we have a major housing crisis, major educational crisis. People in Vermont are going to the grocery store. They can't afford their food. And we have a healthcare system that is broken. And for the first time in the modern history of this country, where in the Senate you need 60 votes. That means bipartisanship. What the Republicans have said, sorry, we're not going to deal with the opposition. We're going to do it alone. Here it is. You take it or you leave it. I will not take it, and I'll tell you why I will not take it. Just today, there was a report that came out from the Kaiser Family Foundation. This is what they said. 24 million Americans will see more than a doubling in their health care premiums. See what that means? People in Vermont and around the country cannot afford health care right now.
So they just won't have health care.
They won't have health care. And on top of that, what the Republicans did in Trump's big, beautiful bill is to throw 15 million Americans off of the health insurance they have. Another study came out, University of Pennsylvania, Yale. You know what that is? They say that 50,000 Americans a year will die unnecessarily because they can't get to a doctor. So instead of improving a broken healthcare system, these guys are making it far, far worse. So I cannot sit back and allow a situation where tens of thousands of people in this country will actually die in order for Trump and the Republicans to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%. That is insane. It's unacceptable. We cannot allow that to happen.
What's your response to Republicans like House Speaker Mike Johnson and others who say the subsidies don't expire until the end of December? We have time to negotiate on those and we could find some common ground.
Well, for a start, common ground, really. They have had months. And for the first time in modern history, they have not sat down. What has always happened is a majority, he talks about how 13 occasions they worked with the Democrats. It's true, because the Democrats in that case sat down with them. So what you need is a bipartisan solution. What these guys have said, it's my way or the highway. This is the way it's going to be. And that is kind of what Trumpism is about. That's that authoritarian tendency that we're seeing in America right now.
So are you telling me you're willing to vote no every time Leader Thinner brings this up?
I am not going to allow. Let me be clear. All right, you can quote me on this. You can quote me on, as we say in Vermont, till the cows come home. I will not let tens of thousands of fellow Americans die because they're thrown off of health care. In my state, people cannot afford a doubling in the health care premiums. We are already paying the highest prices in the country for healthcare. People just can't afford it. And what the Republicans have got to do is go into their hearts and go back into their constituents. Ask their constituents in Louisiana, where Johnson is from, do you think it's a good idea to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to people like Bezos and Musk and Zuckerberg, the richest people in this country, in order to throw people off the health care they have? I think the answer will be a resounding no. So I hope the Republicans develop a sense of morality, listen to the people of America, and do the right thing.
Back in 2018, when there was a shutdown looming over Dreamers, people who qualified under DACA, and the funding for President Trump's border wall, you had talked about a government shutdown as a serious action, a dangerous action, and you said basically you should do everything you can to prevent it.
That's right.
So is your argument tonight that fighting for extending these subsidies is worth shutting the government down?
What I'm saying, what I said then is what I believe. No sane person wants to see a government shutdown. People are going to be hurt, and that bothers me very, very much. But if we allow the Republicans to simply not negotiate and to throw 15 million people off of health care and to double premiums for 20 million people, that will cause even more harm. And by the way, on top of all of that, you have a president who today said to the military, wouldn't it be a good idea if we could start practicing military exercises by invading cities in America, who is threatening the media. So you have a movement toward authoritarianism that we have to address as well. This, Caitlin, is a very difficult moment in the modern history of this country. I think probably as dangerous as any time since the Civil War period. And I think what the American people are saying, we cannot, this is not business as usual. We've got to stand up, we've got to fight back, and create a government that works for all of us, not just Elon Musk and the billionaires.
One thing I've heard from the White House is that the budget director, Russ Vought over there, is basically ready to go if the government is shut down, canceling programs they don't like, laying off federal workers. Are you worried about that?
Of course I'm worried about it, but that's what they've been doing already. You remember when Musk was running Doge, we're going to throw out 83,000 employees who work for the Veterans Administration. And that's a very nice way to treat the men and women who are veterans of this country, who put their lives on the line to defend us, cutting Social Security positions. They're doing it already. Trump, give you one more example. You may have seen this, I'm sure you did. I think it was yesterday. Trump says, well, you know, if Mr. Mamdani becomes the mayor of New York City, well, you know what? I'm going to cut funding to New York City. Well, that's great. You cut funding to any city, any state that you don't like. Well, not only is that illegal, not only is that unconstitutional, it's outrageous.
Como suele ocurrir, los demócratas tienen que mirar hacia el liderazgo de Bernie Sanders. Pero bueno amigos, yo acabo de cumplir con mi misión, que es informarte como lo hago absolutamente todos los días. Como siempre te digo, para mí lo más importante es tu opinión y me encantaría que la pongas en los comentarios. Además, si el video te gustó, te va a encantar suscribirte al canal, ya que subo videos así todos los días. Mi nombre es José Alvarado, soy economista y estoy comprometido con informarte diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.